The border is not quiet. It is dead. Look at the line separating the United States and Canada. Right now, it looks like a postcard. Snow, trees, silence. You're looking at a corpse. For over a century, that line was the longest undefended border on Earth. It wasn't just a line on a map. It was the spine of the American economy. It was the assumption that made the American empire possible. The one relationship Washington could ignore because it was guaranteed. 72 hours ago, Donald Trump decided to burn it to the ground. Welcome to Mr. Finance, where global events meet real consequences. He thought he was replaying 2016. He thought he could threaten, insult, demand, and watch Canada fold. He looked at the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, and saw a banker, a technocrat, a polite man in a suit who would negotiate his way out of a fight. He saw weakness. He made a critical error. At 8:01 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, Ottawa did not issue a statement. They did not send a diplomat. They loaded a weapon. It is not a missile. It is not an army. It is a strategic resource freeze, effective immediately. The critical minerals that guide American missiles, the cobalt that powers American electric vehicles, the uranium that lights American cities, they are no longer coming south. They are going east, to Europe, to Japan, to anyone who is not the United States of America. This is not a trade dispute. This is not a tariff war. This is an economic siege. Trump tried to strangle Canada. Carney just cut off America's oxygen. And the terrifying part? The White House does not even understand what hit them. Let me take you inside the room where this decision was made. Let me show you the documents they don't want you to see. Let me show you why Wall Street is about to panic, why your 401k is already in the crosshairs, and why a country you were taught to think of as America Junior just became the most dangerous strategic threat to the United States. To understand the magnitude of what just happened, you have to understand the trap. 3 days ago, Donald Trump stood on a stage in Pennsylvania. He was looking for a villain. He couldn't attack China, too dangerous, too entangled. He couldn't attack Mexico. He needs them for the border narrative. So he turned north. He demanded Canada scrap its carbon tax. He demanded they dismantle their dairy protections. And then the kicker. He demanded Canada withdraw from digital trade agreements with the European Union. 72 hours. Comply or face a universal 25% tariff on everything. Oil, steel, lumber, cars. In the old days, under Justin Trudeau, under the old Conservative Party, Canada would have panicked. They would have sent a delegation. They would have offered concessions. They would have played the role of the polite neighbor. Mark Carney is not a politician. He is a central banker. He ran the Bank of England during the Brexit crisis. He ran the Financial Stability Board for the G20. He does not think in press releases. He thinks in leverage, and he knows something Donald Trump has never understood. The United States economy is an addict, and Canada is the dealer. For the last 48 hours, while the American media was laughing at polite Canada, Carney's team was working in a room with no phones, paper only. They weren't drafting a press release. They were dusting off a document that has been sitting in a government safe in Ottawa for 6 months, waiting for this exact moment. It is called the Strategic Resource Sovereignty Act. The logic is surgical. Trump used a national security loophole to justify his tariffs, declaring Canada a national security threat. Carney took that same loophole and turned it into a weapon. If the U.S. declares Canada a threat, Canada has the legal right to restrict strategic exports to protect its own security. Trump threw a punch. Carney stepped aside and let him break his own hand on the concrete wall of economic reality. It is a classic judo throw. Use the opponent's momentum to break their spine. You are probably thinking, so what? America is self-sufficient. We don't need Canada. If you believe that, you're not just wrong. You're believing a lie designed to make you feel safe while the foundation crumbles. Let me show you the receipts. Let me show you exactly what Carney just took off the table. Receipt 1, the Seesium crisis. In Manitoba, there's a deposit of Seesium. It is the most critical supply of this element in the Western world. What is Seesium? It is the element used in atomic clocks. It is essential for the guidance systems in every single U.S. missile. It is essential for GPS. It is essential for 5G synchronization. China controls the rest of the global supply. They have already restricted their exports. Now Carney just locked the door on the American backup. You cannot build a Tomahawk missile without it. You cannot run a modern data center without it. The Pentagon knows this. Carney knows this. Donald Trump, he probably can't spell it. Receipt 2, the EV kill switch. Trump wants to beat China in electric vehicles. It is an obsession. But the batteries for those cars require cobalt, nickel, lithium, and the processing capacity to turn rocks into power. The US has almost none of this capacity. Canada has it. We have obtained a leaked internal memo from the Canadian Ministry of Natural Resources. It explicitly states, priority for battery-grade minerals will be given to trade partners who honor the rule of law. Translation, the The lithium and cobalt that were supposed to feed the gigafactories in Nevada and Michigan, they are being rerouted right now to Volkswagen in Germany, to Honda in Japan, to battery manufacturers in France. Carney just handed the future of the automotive industry to Europe and Asia on a silver platter. Receipt 3, heavy crude, the refinery panic. You have heard the talking points. America is energy independent. That is true for light, sweet crude. But the refineries in the Midwest, in Texas, in the heartland, they were built for one thing: heavy crude. The thick, viscous oil that comes from the Canadian oil sands. If Carney slows the flow by even 10%, gas prices in the Midwest do not just go up, they skyrocket. We are talking $6, $7 a gallon within weeks, not months, weeks. This is the gun Carney placed on the table. He didn't fire it yet, he just released the safety. This isn't a trade war, this is a supply chain amputation. While Trump was threatening to tax Canadian lumber, Carney was preparing to starve American industry of its metabolic fuel. Let's go inside the West Wing right now. The reporting coming out of Washington describes a scene of absolute chaos. When the news broke at 8:01 a.m., Trump was reportedly furious. He called his trade representative and demanded to know why they let this happen. Here's the problem. Trump fired all the experts. The people who understood the Canadian file, gone. The diplomats with personal relationships in Ottawa, gone. The scientists who knew about Seesium and Cobalt, defunded. He is surrounded by people who told him Canada was weak. They told him it was just America Junior. They told him Carney was a globalist pushover. They didn't realize Carney isn't playing a political game. He is playing a market game, and the market does not care about tweets. We are hearing that CEOs from the biggest American companies, Ford, General Electric, Lockheed Martin, are blowing up the White House switchboard. They aren't worried about tariffs anymore. Tariffs are a tax. This is a shutdown. Imagine you are the CEO of a defense contractor. You have a multi-billion-dollar contract to build jets. Suddenly, your supplier in Quebec says, "Sorry, new government orders. We can't ship that aluminum." You call the White House and the president tells you to tweet about it. That is the reality right now. Trump has no leverage. He can threaten to invade. Impossible. He can threaten more tariffs. Carney has already priced that in. He can insult Carney. Carney does not care. He is a central banker. He has been insulted by experts. For the first time in his presidency, Trump is up against a wall he cannot talk his way over, cannot tweet his way around, and cannot bully his way through. You have to ask the question, why now? Why did Mark Carney choose this exact moment to pull the trigger? This is the Carney Doctrine. Mark Carney believes the world is splitting into two camps. Camp A, stable democracies, rule of law, predictable contracts. Camp B, chaos agents, rule of force, transactional anarchy. He has looked at the United States under Trump and made a cold, analytical decision. He has decided America has moved to Camp B. So Carney is doing what any good central banker does when a client becomes a credit risk. He is diversifying his portfolio. He is pivoting Canada away from the United States. He is sending a signal to the world. We are the resource superpower of the North. If the U.S. doesn't want to play by the rules, we will sell to those who do. This is a massive gamble. If he is wrong, he crashes the Canadian economy. If he is right, he turns Canada into a global powerhouse that does not need America's permission to exist. And look at the allies lining up. Within an hour of Carney's announcement, the European Union issued a statement supporting Canada's right to sovereign resource management. The UK Prime Minister is flying to Ottawa tomorrow. Japan just announced a new critical mineral partnership with Canada. Do you see what is happening? The world is exhausted by American bullying. They have been waiting for someone to stand up and say, no, Carney just became the leader of the resistance. Not ideologically, economically. Let's bring this home. What does this mean for you? You might be watching this in Ohio or Texas or Michigan. You might think this is just political theater. It won't affect me. Wrong. Here's the timeline of pain if this is not resolved. And we are measuring this in days, not months, days. Day 7. The panic. The stock market corrects. You have already seen the Dow drop. Your 401k takes a hit. Uncertainty kills value, and there is nothing more uncertain than a critical supply chain being turned off. Day 14 to 30, the supply crunch. This is where it gets real. American factories that rely on just-in-time delivery from Canada start running out of parts. That means temporary layoffs. If you work in auto manufacturing, aerospace, or tech hardware, your job is on the line. The line forms on Monday. Day 30 to 60, the inflation spike. When supply goes down, prices go up. Lumber for housing, up 20%. Just gas, up 15%. Food? Canada is a massive supplier of potash, potassium for fertilizer. If that stops coming, U.S. farmers pay more. When farmers pay more, you pay more at the grocery store. Trump promised to lower inflation by picking this fight. He just guaranteed it will skyrocket. And the irony? He is doing this to protect America from China. But he is actually handing market share to China. If U.S. companies cannot get battery materials from Canada, they will buy them from Beijing. Trump is forcing American companies to do business with his biggest enemy, simply because he wanted to bully his closest friend. But there is a darker layer to this story, one the mainstream media is not touching. The Arctic.Canada controls the Northwest Passage. As the ice melts, that is becoming the most important shipping lane on the planet. For decades, the U.S. and Canada shared defense of the North, NORAD, the DEW line, integrated air defense. If this relationship fractures, if Carney decides to assert full sovereignty and invites European or even Chinese commercial shipping to use the route, the United States loses control of its northern maritime border. We have intelligence that Carney has been in talks with Nordic leaders about an Arctic Council of Democracies. Notice who is not invited: the United States. Trump is so focused on the southern border, so obsessed with the wall, that he forgot about the northern one. And now he risks being locked out of the next great geopolitical and commercial frontier. This is the end of the North American fortress. If Canada stops sharing intelligence, stops coordinating on defense, stops aligning its foreign policy with Washington, the U.S. is suddenly very alone on this continent, surrounded by two oceans and a hostile north. So how does this end? We are in the fog of war. But our analysts see three distinct scenarios playing out in the next 7 days. Scenario 1, the blink, the face save. Trump realizes he cannot win. He announces a fantastic new deal with Canada. He drops the tariff threat. Carney quietly resumes some exports, but keeps the Europe and Japan deals as insurance. The crisis is deferred. The trust is gone, but the economy stabilizes. Probability, 20%. Trump hates looking weak more than he hates losing. Scenario 2, the escalation, the full trade war. Trump doubles down. He threatens 100% tariffs on everything. He talks about closing the border. Carney responds by fully cutting off oil and electricity to the northeast United States. The markets crash. The recession begins immediately, not next year. Now, probability, 50%. Trump is reactive. He punches first and asks questions later. This time, the punch lands on his own jaw. Scenario 3, the regime change, the long game. This is the Carney play. He isn't trying to change Trump's mind. He is waiting him out. He keeps the pressure on. He makes life miserable for voters in key swing states, farmers in Iowa, auto workers in Michigan. He helps ensure Trump loses his grip on power. Carney is betting that America will eventually fire Trump. He's betting that the American people will realize the cost of this confrontation and choose stability over chaos. Probability, 30%. It is slow, it is cold, it is precise. It is exactly how a central banker starts a war. No matter which scenario happens, one thing is permanent: the trust is gone. Canada has learned it cannot rely on America, and America is about to learn it cannot survive without Canada. We talk about historical turning points on this channel. Usually they happen in war zones. Usually they involve explosions. But sometimes history changes because one man in a quiet room simply decides to stop being pushed around. Mark Carney just drew a line in the sand. He told the most powerful man on earth, "You're not the king of the world, and you are certainly not the king of Canada." This is a dangerous moment. It is a terrifying moment. But it is also a moment of clarity. The era of unquestioned American dominance is over. Not because America is weak, but because America turned on its friends. And its friends finally decided to walk away. Was Carney a genius who stood up to a bully and secured his nation's future? Or was he a madman who just lit a match and threw it into the engine room of the North American economy? Was Trump defending American sovereignty? Or did he just engineer the most catastrophic strategic blunder since the fall of an empire? The markets open in less than 48 hours. We will have our answer soon enough. If this exploration of power, law, and technology resonated with you, your support defines this channel. Smash the like button, subscribe to Mr. Finance, and hit the bell for our ongoing analysis. Thank you for watching.